It's Sine, and today I was working on one of my blogs, and I thought I'd bring you a really quick video that discusses how to manage your blog with plugins. Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm the geeky plugin gal. Plugins, I just go crazy for them. But there's such a thing as too many, so let's talk about some of the core plugins that you can load that won't overload your site, but that will give you some management benefits. We'll talk about backing up your database. Now, as you know, your blog is a giant database. Every new post that you put in there, every new page that you add, every new link that you insert, they all go inside the database. The blog software actually renders that and displays it to your visitors. So backing up your database is crucial in the event of a server hack or somebody coming in and breaking something. You need to be able to bring your blog back, and that's through restoring your database. So I'll talk about how to automatically back that up every day or every 3 days, whatever schedule you set up. We'll also talk a little bit about thanking your visitors. I mean, look, they've taken the time to stop by your blog, read your content, and perhaps leave a comment. And if they take that action, you'll want to thank them. Now, you don't necessarily want to thank them right away because that looks like it's just one big automation, which it is, but we want it to be a little more natural appearing. In other words, they leave a comment, and anywhere from 18 hours to 3 days later, they get a personal note from you in their inbox that says, "Hey, I noticed you stopped by the site. I appreciate the feedback you gave me, and I just wanted to say thanks. Oh, by the way, come check out the new content that we've added since you were here, 3 days ago." That'll go a long way to getting your visitors feeling pampered, and frankly, pampered is what you want. We'll also cover some ways to allow your visitors to share your content. The easier you make it to share, the more they will. And you can do that with bookmarking and sharing plugins. I'll show you some of the ones I use and some to avoid. We'll also talk about load balancing your plugins. At the beginning of this conversation, I mentioned that there's such a thing as overkill. If you put too many on, well, it's just going to slow your site down, and that doesn't serve anybody. You also need to know that Google is now using page load time as one of the signifiers as to whether or not they're going to serve your content to a searcher. So be aware that page speed is now an issue. We'll also talk about plugins that do double duty, and this kind of gets back to our load balancing we were just talking about. If you can get one plugin that does 3 things versus loading 3 different plugins, you're going to be serving your content a little bit faster. We'll also talk about when to edit your theme and when to use a plugin. Now, if it's a little simple tweak, it may make more sense to change your theme rather than add the overhead of style sheets and JavaScript and other things that the plugins might need. So I know it sounds like we're going to cover a lot, and frankly we are. Do grab a pen and paper and be prepared to take notes, and do look down below this video. There are going to be resources. The plugins that I talk about and the methods that I use are going to be shown down below. So don't be intimidated. Remember, I'm going to take you by the hand, cover it with you step by step. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, let's talk for a minute about load balancing. Obviously, there are plugins that'll do any and everything, but there reaches a point where you've got some diminishing returns. So one thing I recommend you do is you pick and choose your plugins carefully. Make sure that the benefit you're going to get from loading them outweighs the overhead loss you're going to suffer when you do load it. One thing I do, and this is kind of a little bit of a cheat, but let me show you one thing that we can do. And this will help you identify how much overhead you're losing. One of the first things I do is go into the footer and scroll all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to add a comment within the code that is going to, in the comment itself, it's going to get the number of queries that this particular page is running and how long it took to load. So if I do this and I turn all my plugins off and then I refresh the page within the body of the source code, in other words, if I right click and say view source, and I scroll all the way to the bottom, I'm going to see exactly how long it took to load that page. I ran 105 queries and it took 1.054 seconds to build this page. So if I do this to begin with and I throw this in Excel and then I add another plugin and I go refresh it and I look to see, did it change? Did it change a lot or a little? If I keep looking at this and keep a Excel spreadsheet putting what my queries are, my time is for each plugin that I add, I'll be able to tell what's causing me a slowdown and where I've got diminishing returns. So first thing you do is go put that code in, and again, that code is down below this video. You should see a sample. Just copy it into the bottom of your footer, anywhere that appears right before the closing body tag. So load this up before you begin installing all your plugins. And after each new plugin, record what you're getting. Here's a sample of that. I just start with the blog, what my initial load is, how many queries, how many seconds for each one. And then as I add each one, document how many queries it's now running and how many seconds it takes to load. If you see one that jumps it from 82 to 180, that's too big a jump. Really take a look at that plugin. If the benefits you're getting from that plugin are not enormous, it may not be worth the overhead that you're going to be experiencing. Remember, by overhead, I mean every piece of JavaScript that's loaded, every style sheet that has to be rendered. Each time you add something new, you're adding what it has to do in order to render that page. And that's before we even get into images. And images take up their own space and really need to be optimized their own method. I do recommend that you really take a strong look at what the benefit is before you load it. In other words, antivirus, I will load even if it slowed me down to a crawl. The biggest reason is it will prevent me from being hacked. And if I am hacked, it'll let me know immediately so that I can reverse the process it's done. Now, Backtype Connect, I'm not going to enable it until I've done my load balancing, because this is one that has a little bit of an overhead. Now, the benefit to me is it's a quick way to bring in a lot of comments. In other words, if you tweet your post or you publish it and it appears on Facebook and other people, are referencing those links, you could get a lot of, quote, comments that could land on your blog very, very quickly, and that gives you a form of social proof. So Backtype Connect is one I'll use, but not until I've got my primaries loaded first. That's the other thing that I recommend on load balancing is you spend a little time turning things on and off, do different combinations, behave differently. And I mentioned earlier that one thing you want to do is look at plugins that do double duty. A perfect example of that is Headspace. The predominant reason is Headspace actually replaces several different plugins. If you take a look at the site modules that are available to you in Headspace, you'll see there are things, there's an engine built in for Google Analytics, Aperture, which is an add-on that brings some really great content options to your web page, 103Bs, Crazy Egg, these are tracking utilities. You can disable visual editing, you can turn on FeedBurner, Stats Pro. Again, just look at all of these options, and these are really pretty neat features that you don't have to add an additional plugin in order to accommodate. Headspace is already being loaded, the engine is already being loaded, so you can go turn on and set the options for a lot of these. Do find plugins that do double duty, that allow you to bring things in and use them only as you need. Headspace has another nice feature that I like, and that's the ability to bring in conditionally page-specific plugins. In other words, let's say I load a plugin for contact forms. Well, I don't want to add the overhead to every single page in my blog. I only need the overhead, in other words, the style sheets and the JavaScript. I only need that on the actual Contact Me page. So I can load it and not activate it. But by turning on page-specific plugins, when I go to edit the Contact Me page, I can turn on that plugin just for that page. So again, this Headspace will allow you to help reduce your overhead on each individual page. So I do put page-specific themes and plugins over here on the Advanced tab, and when I'm editing, there's a little new link that's added underneath called Advanced. I can click it and turn on or turn off JavaScript, CSS or plugins based on what I need. Double duty plugins, explore them, take a look at the additional options that they offer when you go looking for plugins. Doing more than one thing isn't always better, depends on how it renders it, so do record your load times. Make sure that the benefit you're getting is worth the overhead. Okay, so that ends this section on load balancing and plugins that do double duty. This excerpt was provided as a courtesy to my YouTube subscribers. To see the rest of the video, please visit its homepage by clicking the link in the description.